furbished clipper ship, the Waltzing Matilda. There is a confrontation between Ariadne Winterbane, a dramatic stage actress of note, and also Parrot Boy, a fatuous, ruthless, gossip columnist. Naturally, our heroes, brothers, Reynold and Willoughby, are on board, and as part of the action, as are their wives, Letitia and Jossie, respectively. Ariadne's Slovenian assistant, Helga, is aboard to watch the unfolding scenario as the purser Eldred Peckish attempts to rectify what has become a most ghastly situation on Captain Weintraub's vessel, the Waltzing Matilda. Now, I bet you think this is Jim. I wish that it was. Reynolds took an opportunity instead to approach Ariadne and was finishing his monologue by saying, "Oh yes, Miss Winterbane, we, my brother and our wives, really marveled over your performance in Minerva of the Sorrows, the Roman goddess of wisdom." Ariadne nodded slightly, affecting gratitude toward the gentleman's platitude. She suddenly turned inward as something appeared to have caught her eye by the bar. An altogether different mood took over. She secured the deeply peony pink satin clutch covered in a crystal cage under her arm and said to Reynolds, "Thank you, darling. I'm so glad you and yours enjoyed my performance. So did countless others. I'm afraid I found the whole affair to be a crawling, slow bore, like baking porcelain." Reynolds saw what she was fixed upon. Herrick was standing at the bar, weaving into his cups, and was leaning toward Helga, who apparently had the same destination in mind. Eldred had prepared the cocktails, a golden crocodile for the Slovenian lady at Eldred's behest, and a dry gin martini for the gossip columnist. Ariadne abruptly left Reynolds bewildered and made a beeline toward Herrick and Helga with deliberate steps. Helga moved quickly away. Ariadne summoned Peckish for a vodka stinger and placed her clutch on the bar, opening it for a cigarette. Herrick pulled up a stool for her to sit upon. After a few moments, Ariadne coolly said, "I hope you don't plan on attempting to expose me any further during our voyage. You have done enough damage already. I'm a staff writer. It was a staff writer, not me, that penned Miss Winterbane's talent is best witnessed after one has been duly subdued by the effects of liquor. I wasn't referring to that delirious shred of deleterious detritus, and you know it." Ariadne took a drag of her cigarette as the wisps of smoke enshrouded her face. She looked at Herrick squarely. "You're not entirely dim, I don't suppose, despite your lackluster prosaic prose and the fact that you have the head of an anvil and a gentle cast about you that suggests numerous years of inbreeding. Now you wait just a moment here. I'm doing my job. A dollar never made a gentleman." Herrick wiped his mouth. "What did you say? Inbreeding? Well, that's very interesting. If you wish to get wicked, since you brought up family, let's actually discuss family for a moment, shall we? Is that what has you so steamed?" Herrick signaled Peckish for another martini. "And you'll have to forgive me. I'm so dim, I can't say I'll remember. Was it a miscarriage or an abortion? Or are you still holding on to it? You must tell me sometime. That was one thing we could never get the goods on." Ariadne took a slow sip of her stinger. "And yet you still published your filth. Everything was lies, vicious lies, and you know it. Your blackened aspersions nearly cost me the theater's highest award, all for the sake of your cheap, rotten press." She paused and airily declared, "I hope that there is still hot blood running through your cold veins should you ever attempt to write anything about me again. Oh, Peric laughed. Is that a thinly veiled threat? A thinly veiled threat, Ariadne repeated throatily, tapping a few fingers on her thumb. Ah, 5 syllables. What else have you up your sleeve, boy? Fractions? Ariadne leaned into him, her crimson lacquered fingers curled into claws. She hissed with damp breath. Do stay out of the shadow. She threw her drink in his face, snatched her clutch, and walked away, crossing the deck over to the railing to smoke another cigarette and stare, just stare out at the sea. Peric laughed and ordered another martini after Eldred handed him a bar towel to wipe off his face. The other passengers on deck pretended that they hadn't heard every single word of the argument that had just taken place as Eldred approached them to politely inquire if they'd like another round. Peric kept laughing, softly at first, but then his laughter became almost hysterical as he stared into his glass and twirled the skewered olive around in the gin, appearing mesmerized at something. The laughter turned into a horrifying scream as the others saw Peric flush red, swat at his face, and cover his nose. Jossie swung around, her head nervously at Reynolds. Willoughby placed a sturdy arm around Letitia. The bristle, clicking, poisonous beetle that had flown under the stem of Peric's glass, before crawling up to the rim of it and perching there, had quickly scampered on 6 little legs into his nose. The beetle immediately released its poison through Peric's nasal passages. It then spread to his brain and breathed fire as he fell off the bar stool with a crash and a clamor caused by his blindly knocking over the stacked, chilled martini glasses and liquor bottles at the bar. The beetle caused him, killed him almost instantly. The other gathered tipplers at first thought the young man had merely passed out from a gross indulgence of liquor. Eldred had yet to finish pouring a golden crocodile when he ran over to the man and carefully shook him, calling his name before checking for a pulse. He gasped when he discovered there wasn't any. Ariadne wheeled around as Eldred shook his head in disbelief. She shrieked and collapsed on the deck. Not hers well, Reynolds cried out. Do you suppose the culprit is African boxwood? Hush, Reynolds, Willoughby said. Lo, the great actress falls down, Elka said with a narrow heart. I wouldn't concern yourselves, either of you, Chalmers. She looked over at Peric. If he's dead, I hope she's dead too. Such theatrics. Usually the great star dies alone after a monologue at the end of her plays, Helga explained. She must be livid. Captain Weintraub rushed to the upper deck from below stairs, having heard the screams. He asked Eldred, Peckish, what in the world has happened? I don't know, sir, the purser replied, tugging at his red handkerchief. Mr. Boyd was having his drink. He suddenly screamed and fell over right there. I checked his pulse. He's dead, Captain.
All right. Makes me want to find out what happened.
Well,